This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Good afternoon and welcome to our Evening MBA admissions chat today. We'll be discussing how you create your ideal MBA schedule in our Evening MBA program. I'm joined here on the chat today with some of our admissions and program office folks. So we'll go ahead and get started so you can see who'll be here. My name is Angela Bostic. I am an 04 graduate of the program and the Associate Dean of Marketing and Communications. I will be your moderator for the day. So my job is just to move this conversation along. I also have with me Kathleen Edwards, our Senior Associate Director of MBA Admissions, and Aleme Ofogbo, who is our Associate Director of the Evening MBA program. Later in the conversation, we'll be joined by one of our students, Mauricio Goizueta, who will be talking a little bit about how he structured the program, and then some housekeeping notes before we sort of overall get started. If you've done a chat with us before, you know you can submit your questions at any point in time, and we'll get them fielded either on air or behind the scenes on camera, but you'll make sure you get an answer during the chat. Kathleen and Aleme will go over all this information, but the actual slides and the footage from the conversation will be available in about 7 to 10 days, so you can also go back and look over it. This is an awesome time for you to get your question asked on air or behind the scenes to make sure it's specific to your situation. And since we're talking about creating an ideal MBA schedule, this is a great time to talk about what matters to you most. So agenda for today, and we're going to go over a couple of things. We're going to talk about admissions and how the admissions process relates with your plan of study. We're going to talk about the program structure and then how you work with the Evening MBA program office and how they assist you in this process of figuring out what schedule is best for you. We'll then talk a little bit about schedule options, and then we'll go through 3 mock schedules. First, the traditional, so the traditional formal schedule, and then an accelerated and interrupted schedule, so you can see how you can speed up and slow down the program. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps, which will always include figuring out how you best can get engaged with the school and determine the right next steps for you. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Kathleen, and she's going to get us started as we talk about admissions and your plan of study.
Sure, absolutely. So as you are researching MBA programs, certainly you probably have some sort of academic idea of what you'd like to study, whether it be general or very specific. And really what you need to know coming into the program is that there's a lot of research that's been done to make sure that you're delivered a fantastic curriculum that's going to prepare you for immediate improvement in your current workplace, but also future success in different kinds of jobs and success obtaining different positions, different industries, things like that, so that you're marketable to employers. So that's really the way that the academic curriculum is designed from a faculty perspective, from a school's perspective, that sort of thing. So that's why you'll see pretty commonly core courses are fairly similar across different MBA programs, different schools. But the breadth and depth of the elective opportunities is something that really makes Goizueta stand out, particularly for a part-time student, the fact that you have so much access. That's just general comment. In terms of admissions, we don't require you to declare anything up front in terms of your intended academic area of study. We trust that as you come in, you go through your core classes, you're going to find different areas in your elective opportunities which you're interested in that you'd like to delve more deeply into, or some new areas you'd like to try out, develop some new skills, things like that. So we certainly will ask you about your interest areas during your application process, but it's not part of our decision necessarily that we're going to hold you to that. If you say you're going to plan to concentrate in finance, that we're going to check back in a year and say, well, where are your elective courses? It's really just about gathering more information. It's not something we're going to hold you to on the incoming process. And on the same vein as that as well, you don't have to be a business undergrad major to apply to business school at all. We're really interested in a variety of academic backgrounds because that adds so much into the classroom discussion. So certainly have liberal arts backgrounds among our students, as well as engineering, as well as traditional business or economics, a wide variety of academic backgrounds represented in the classroom. So as I said before, too, you also don't need to declare your schedule ahead of time when you're going through the application process. We're going to show you some different samples of types of schedules, whether it's accelerated or slowed down or pretty standard. But that's a decision that you're making as you go along the process. And Alumni will certainly talk about the advising that goes into that, the opportunities that you have, and the way that students make decisions. But certainly we will answer a lot of questions on the front end about how you would accelerate or how you would make those decisions, but it's not something that you would need to put in your application or declare at the beginning of school. It really is a process as you go through the program. And then one of the great things I do want to, a good question to answer that a lot of applicants will have is prerequisite courses. So the bottom line is there are no prerequisite courses to apply to Goizueta's MBA program. we will see that we would like to see economics, accounting, and statistics as a foundation before you start your classes, but that can happen after you are admitted. So what happens is you'll send us all your academic information, we'll make our admission decision, and if you're missing any of those 3 required areas, statistics, accounting, or microeconomics, we're going to provide you with a foundation course online, as well as an in-person, almost boot camp session before classes start. So that way everyone is ready to hit the ground running once you walk into your core classes. They've all been faculty approved, so they know that you're walking into the classroom with that minimum level of preparation and knowledge, and can hit the ground running from there, so that you don't have to, again, you don't have to be a business major to come to business school. We're going to give you the skills that you need to start out, and then the faculty are going to work with you from there. And then transfer credits, that's certainly a common question as well. And it is possible to transfer some course credit into our MBA program, but it has to fit some specific requirements. So basically, the way that it would most commonly work is that if you had started an MBA program elsewhere, completed a few elective courses, you might be able to transfer those credits into Goizueta. But they would have to be elective credits. It's a process that happens after you're already admitted and enrolled, and it's done by faculty committee. So they'll want to see the syllabus, your grades, things like that. But unfortunately, you cannot transfer credit for core classes. You're getting an Emory MBA, so we want you to have taken the majority of your classes here at Emory, particularly your core classes. So it's just something to keep in mind. It is a way to transfer credits in, but you won't. We do not recommend that you go somewhere else to try to take classes to transfer in. That's just generally not a good idea. We'd rather you do the majority or all of your program here at Goizueta. Yeah, I think that's...
Before you leave, I have a question I want to make sure we field, and it goes back to the idea of the prerequisites. And so the idea that you guys are going to provide foundations courses in between when they're admitted and when they would start. Can an individual take their own prerequisite courses? So could somebody get admitted into the program and then choose to take a different class somewhere else? Or do you recommend that they actually just do your foundations courses? And is that an additional cost or expense that they have?
That's a good question. We generally recommend that you take our foundation courses that we offer. So there's an online component, and then there's an in-person component during orientation time, program immersion orientation before your regular classes start in August. So because the reasoning is that a semester-long class elsewhere at another university or something like that is a great way to do that, but unless you're applying in the very first round in the fall, you're just not going to have time to do that. Things are going to be really busy in the spring and the summer with getting ready for classes, and you have this great opportunity that are these online courses that have been pre-approved by our faculty. They're pretty straightforward. You can do them from the comfort of your own home. There is an additional fee of, I believe, $70 to $80, but it covers all 3 of your classes that if you are required to take all 3 of those, and you have access to them for a year, so they're great to refer back to when you are in the core class. They can be really helpful. You can take the test as many times as you like. And then that also includes your in-person class with a Goizueta faculty member here on campus before the regular core classes start. So it really is just, deal. Yeah, it's a nice deal, and it's really simple. It's a great way to get back into the classroom, into study mode as well, although you've done the GMAT or GRE, so that should have helped you along the way. But yeah, particularly the in-person boot camp classes are a great way to get back in the classroom and ease back in a little bit before you're being graded. Can
they be taken if you're not, if they're not required? Can I just elect to take them?
Yes, so you absolutely have the option to do it whether or not you're required. But if you're required, you will be. And so you know, most students are required to take accounting because there's a time limit on the validity of that class. So even if you took accounting in undergrad, if it was more than 4 years ago, the faculty would like you to retake the foundation course. So the majority of your classmates will be in the accounting foundation.
Awesome. All right, so now we can move on and talk a little bit more about program structure.
Yeah. So we wanted to put this slide up for you to show you the basics, the nuts and bolts of how the Evening MBA program works here at Goizueta. So typically you're going to be in class 2 nights per week. You're typically taking 2 courses per term. Each course meets one class night per week. Class always starts at 6:30 and runs till about 9:15, 9:30, depending on what you're covering and the faculty member and that sort of thing. There's a little break in the middle, usually a 10-15 minute break where you can run to the program office, see a Lemmy, get some coffee, get some popcorn or a snack, and also see your classmates, you know, in a casual setting, and then classmates from other class years and cohorts, that sort of thing. So you can plan for your first year in terms of core classes to be here Monday and Wednesday evenings for the full 3 first semesters, so fall, spring, and summer. So that's pretty straightforward. You can plan on that. Then once you move into your electives, there's more variety in terms of when you would be here on campus. So elective courses are offered Monday through Thursday. So you could be here Monday and Tuesday night. You could be here Tuesday and Thursday night. It just depends on which classes you're taking. But again, those the start and end times still remain the same. So your core classes you'll go through with your cohort, as we talked about, we'll talk about your incoming class as your cohort, so typically around 90 to 100 students. You'll go through your core classes together, but you'll be in two sections. So section A might have marketing on Monday night and economics on Wednesday night, and then section B would have the reverse. So you're here on the same nights, but you're sitting in different classrooms, but you see each other during the break. Then that changes a little bit. You'll see under the co-curricular modules, management practice is spread out throughout your first year. So it's a 3-semester long class, but you're not meeting weekly. You're meeting intermittently throughout the semester. And then in your second and third semesters, it's going to be very much self-scheduled. You'll have a kickoff and then a final week. But your first semester, it will be built into your schedule, so it's not an additional night per week. It's just meeting throughout the semester. They'll build that into your schedule, and the program office will communicate with you those dates, everything like that. So basically, this is how it works. This is the typical schedule. The nuts and bolts, how it works: 9 core courses, 8 electives, and then the 3 co-curricular modules. And we'll talk through more of this schedule, flexibility and different options a little bit later.
So before we leave this, definitely a question of when will I know, if I'm a student, when will I know what my classes will be, like my Monday, Wednesday, in the process once I've been admitted?
Sure. Pretty early on in August, we try to, the program office will schedule your courses for you actually in your first year. They'll register you for classes, so you don't even have to worry about that, which is nice. It's a great perk. One less thing to learn when you're trying to get assimilated to lots of new information. So you'll know which classes you're going to take as soon as you apply. Right now we could tell you, but it depends on which night you're meeting. You'll find that out, as well as your team assignment during the orientation timeline, which is early August.
Fabulous. Well, now that Elumi's got her head nodding, it sounds like it's a good time to transition to talk about working with the program office and how, sort of the resources that you have here are critically important in understanding, how this degree is much more powerful and very distinguished from others in the area. So, Elumi, can you talk a little bit about how prospective and actual students end up working with your program office throughout the process in relation to their schedule?
Yes, absolutely. So, what is the program office and what do we do, you ask? Well, the program office works collaboratively and conscientiously with students to attain your MBA in a timely manner. Students can decide the best path for you to attain your MBA at any time. As soon as you join the program, you can decide you are assigned to an advisor. Each student has an advisor that they work with throughout the program. So you meet with your advisor to discuss your career goals. And based on your career goals, we will advise you as to which courses, which are the best electives to take based on your career goals. When can students work with the program office? As soon as you join the program. As soon as you join the program, we let you know who your advisor is. And at that point, at any time, you can schedule an appointment with us, or you can stop by the program office during your breaks or just before you come in to take classes to meet with us and ask your questions. So you have access to us at any point in the program. What resources do we provide? So the program office, we are your first point of contact. If you have a question and you don't know who to ask, you don't know where to begin, you begin with your advisor or anyone in the program office. So we help with academic advising. We provide schedule planning. We help with registration assistance. We plan programming events and plan your calendars ahead of time. We know that students are planners, and so we will help you plan and let you know what we have coming up ahead of time so you can work that into your schedule as it comes up. And we can answer any questions that you have throughout the program. And if we don't know the answer, we can point you in the right direction. So we, again, are your first point of contact for when you have questions. So how do you determine what electives will be most beneficial to your career goals? Again, we advise that you sit down with your advisor and we will discuss your career goals. And then based on that, we will walk through steps and electives that you can decide to take to help you plan your career goals as you move through the program.
Great. So there are a couple of questions related to, I think, the cohort structure, which I think both of you guys can talk to, but also the idea of making those kind of decisions. So we'll start with the cohort. Kathleen, you mentioned your cohort will be the group of students you come into the program with. There'll be 90 to 100, and you'll be in classes the same days, not necessarily the same class at the same time, but those will be the individuals you'll go through the program with. And we're very intentional about how we build the cohort, how admissions chooses them, and how the teams are put together. But if you guys can talk a little bit about what some of the benefits of that cohort structure are, and why a student would be attracted to having that kind of model for their program. Kathleen?
Sure. Well, a big part of what we're emphasizing throughout the MBA program is working with other people. So most of you are in jobs where you may be an individual contributor, but 99.99% of you are working with other people, have cross-functional teams, have some sort of responsibility and accountability to the organization as a whole, but also the people immediately surrounding you. So it's something that you already have some experience in. So it's going to continue in business school. That's certainly part of your learning process. You also benefit so much from people around you. And again, we do try to bring in a group of diverse perspectives from the business world, nonprofit world, different things, different areas, so that you're having conversations, it's stimulated, you're learning new things from the people around you. That's a huge part of your learning process here. It's the academics, you're learning from the faculty, but also the people sitting next to you. You're also motivated by working with groups and having this fabulous foundation to your network. Part of why you come to business school as well is to expand your professional network. And so that cohort group that you come in with, that you spend a lot of time with during orientation, program immersion, your management practice module, they're a great solid foundation to your Goizueta network that's going to continue on for many, many years beyond this. Your business school selection is part of the immediate term, the next few years, but then also you're a lifelong alumni community member, and that's certainly important to build that foundation, to have people that you can go to with silly questions, with personal questions, but also professional advising. It's very common later on to have alums hiring other alums, working together, starting businesses together. So the cohort structure gives you that time to get to know each other in an academic setting, in a personal setting, a social setting. You're going to go out after class. You're going to enjoy the company of these people. I think that's what surprises some people about a part-time program, is that you really will get to be very close with your classmates. It's very much a collegial experience. You're going to have conversations in class that you're not ready to finish, so they continue on at the bar down the street. That's very, very common. And it remains a close-knit network that just gets bigger as you move on in classes. You get to know full-time students, executive students, alumni of Goizueta are very much interactive. It's not just evening alumni. So I think that's probably a big part of why we emphasize the cohort structure so much.
Yeah, and I know that from a standpoint, you guys are intentional about building the cohort. Elime, what are some of the intentional things the program office does to sort of foster that cohort? A lot of it, to your point, happens in the classroom and it happens naturally, but how does the program office sort of coerce that as well to make sure that students realize the benefit?
Right. So part of what we do, as was mentioned earlier, was that we place you into teams. And those teams change each semester. So you get to know different groups of people in your cohort as you go through the program, at least for the first year. So that's our way of making sure that you're not just meeting the same people, but you're interacting with a wide variety of people from your cohort. Also, as Kathleen mentioned, networking. The people in your class possibly have the same jobs or working in the same company as you would one day want to work for. So we have programming events that foster networking and encourages you to network with each other, get to know not only your cohort, but the other cohorts that are in the program, and to widen your network, as Kathleen mentioned.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because that again gets back to the intentionality, not just the way the program is structured or how the classes are done or the career element, but just how much you're going to get from each other. And they only really have to be intentional up front, because I promise you, when you get in the program, you guys sort of take it from there.
Yes.
That community is built very quickly, and it's a very tight-knit, and it's fast. And to your point, it's long-standing, which sounds trite, I guess, kind of up front, but is very true. It's a really good way to sort of describe it. In addition, it looks like we're looking at also having individuals, as they meet with the program office, decide sort of what they want to do. But we also said before, you don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're trying to do when you first get in there. So for an individual who knows what they want to do with their career, they can come and talk to you guys in the program office and get advice. What do you do for a student who's new in the program, who sort of knows what they want to do, but wants to come to get advice about what that is?
Right.
Not necessarily just the classes, but like, how do I figure it out?
Right. That's a great question, because it's okay if you don't know what you want to do on the onset. That's what we're here for. We encourage you, as I said before, to come and sit down with an advisor. And as we probe and ask you questions, you may get to making a decision as to where your career what your career goals are. It's okay if you don't know, especially during the first year, and that's fine. Some students at least, find out what they want to do as they begin taking electives. So as your second year, fall semester, when you start taking electives, you may take an elective that you really like, you really enjoy, or you're really good at, and then decide that you want to go further up that path. And so it's a discovery process, and we help you through that process. So it's okay if you don't know straight away what it is that you want to do. As you begin taking classes, as you begin talking to us in the program office, and then start talking to the CMC for working professionals, you're going to discover eventually what it is that you want to do, and it's a rewarding process at the end. So it's okay, don't stress, you don't have to know what you want to do straight away. Right.
No panic. Well, definitely, and I think as you talk through the schedule, people get to learn that. So we'll move on a little bit and talk a little bit about the schedule components. So what parts of the schedule are there, and what makes a schedule? I mean, not just the big buckets, but what types of things are in there?
Sure. This slide is really to help you kind of learn our vocabulary in terms of our program structure and the different opportunities that you have. So the first three components, core courses, electives, and international study, are things that every student will participate in. So obviously you'll all go through the core courses pretty much together unless you adjust your schedule. Electives, everyone will complete their elective requirements throughout the program. International study is one of the required pieces of the program. We really feel that it's important to get your feet on the ground in a different country and spend some time examining the business culture there, the economy, how it works. And there are several different opportunities to do that. There are several different international study options. So, and it offered at different times of the year. You can go to Nicaragua in January. You could do the colloquium in March. You could go to China in August. You can pick the time, the destination, and the time of year where you're going and when. So you can work that into your schedule pretty seamlessly and plan ahead for it in terms of work and taking vacation time and making the most of your time in whatever country you choose or continent. Everyone builds in a little travel time there. So then the three things at the bottom of the slide are different things that you have opportunities to do. They're optional options. Just a little.
I like optional options. Those are my favorite kind of options.
Whatever. So ACE courses, that's one of the easiest ways to accelerate your coursework if that's something you would like to do. So an ACE course is a standard elective course. It's just accelerated into a shorter time period. So it's offered in the winter between the fall and spring semester. So it typically starts in December and wraps up in January before your regular spring semester begins. So it's an elective course. It's the same credit hours as any other elective course, but it's designed on a different time schedule so that you're moving faster. You're meeting more often per week. You're meeting 3 times per week. And it's going to be a course that lends itself to that kind of structure. It's not going to be a very, very quant-heavy course, something like that. It's going to be something that fits that model well that we've worked with before typically. Directed studies are unique opportunities, and they have a lot of different kind of forms. So it could be a group of alumni bring a project to campus. Maybe a local organization has a case study they'd like a group of students to work on and really build a recommendation and do research for them, and then make a recommendation back to them. So that could be a way of doing a directed study. You could pair up with a faculty member to build your own course if there's a particular subject area that you'd really like to delve deeply into that isn't already a formal elective. It's essentially building your own elective with deliverables and an arrangement with that faculty member. So there are a lot of different forms that takes, and that's one thing that Mauricio will be talking about as well. And then there's Washington Campus, which is another really popular option. So it is an elective course credit, but completed in a week of study in Washington, D.C. So it's a fantastic opportunity. It's offered, I believe, twice per year. So our evening and our full-time students participate in that very frequently and have great feedback about that. So you can either be studying healthcare or you can be studying policy and regulation. And it's really fascinating how government and business interact in regulation and policy making, and you're hearing from policy makers, lobbyists, things like that, firsthand. So it's a great opportunity. So again, it's an elective course credit, a full semester credit in a week. So that's an option that you have as well. So
awesome. I think we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the things to consider, and then we're going to go through those 3 schedules. And then, as Kathleen had mentioned, Mauricio is going to come in and talk about his schedule in particular, which was a traditional schedule. But definitely make sure that, as you're listening through this, you think about these specific factors as how they relate to you. And so first and foremost, they're kind of bucketed in 3 areas: academic, the career, and personal. And we'll breeze through these pretty quickly and then get into specifics about each one of them.
Right. So Alemi's going to go through some sample schedules, but these are the kinds of things that students use to make their decisions as they're choosing those schedules. So academic options, of course, what's available to you in that particular semester is going to play a big part in what you signed up for. Certainly in what you'd like to take. If there's a specific elective you've heard about and you really want to plan to take that, you can ask the program office about when it's typically offered. You can try to make sure you leave time for that. And then, of course, what's required of you, things, of course. So we talked about taking electives that are going to relate to the career that you are in or that you would like to move into, employer marketability, that sort of thing. Your academic advisor, as well as your career coaches in the Career Management Center for Working Professionals, are fantastic resources talking about, what's going to be looked for by the employer, what skills you want to make sure you've really got hammered down and ready to apply to different situations on the job, what's attractive on your resume, things like that. Also, faculty really enjoy talking about the electives that they offer and what they're going to be teaching and how that will relate to whatever job it is you're doing. Please don't underestimate them as a resource in terms of your course options. They love to pitch their own electives, but also talk about what their peers are studying and doing research on and how that can benefit you in the work that you're doing or your general interest or whatever that is. And then, of course, schedule-wise, too, if you're doing a job change in the program, that's one reason you might take a lighter load in a semester or take a semester off. Availability, if you're going through a major job search and you want to have time to interview, you could plan ahead to have a light load that particular time of year, or even not take classes that semester so that you can really focus on interviewing as well as maintaining your current workload at the office, because that's something you don't want to slack off. Right. We know you have a lot of balls in the air, so that's certainly part of your decision. And then personal, too, we have had several students who take maybe a lighter load if they have a new baby or a family illness, things like that. There is that flexibility there. So that's important that you know that you have that opportunity to balance all the responsibilities that you have and not sacrifice for school. You can make it work. And then learning style, too. Some people find that they really do better with 2 classes. Some people want to, take more. Don't underestimate the importance of your learning style and also preventing burnout. We don't want you to burn out so that you're not getting as much out of the coursework as you should be. And you want to enjoy this. This is a time that you're investing in yourself. It's a luxury to add to your education in this way. Make the most of the time that you have as a student. And so that's something we recommend you think about as well.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to start off with the traditional format. And this is traditional in that the majority of students will follow this path to some degree. You should see here on the screen, I apologize if it's small, first, second, and third year. And there's some details about not just the class, but the credit hours and the day of the week. This is a sample schedule. This is not the promise of the schedule you will have when you start in fall 2014, which is when you're starting because you're applying now. But this is exactly something you would look at if somebody went through a program. And so this is probably a recent schedule, and you can use it to better have a proxy for what your life would look like.
That's correct. So let's remember one thing is that, as Kathleen alluded to, each semester that you begin taking your elective classes, your approach to how you select your courses can change depending on your circumstance. So you don't have to select a method and stick to that method all the way through. So as your circumstances change, your approach to what classes you select or how you select your classes may also change. So as we look at the slide here, we're looking at the traditional schedule method. And no matter which method you're going through, and we're going to talk about traditional, accelerated, and interrupted, your first year of classes will always be core. Now, your core classes, for the most part, are prerequisites for the electives that you will start taking during your second year fall semester. So as you look at this schedule here, I've named this person Mike. So Mike is going the traditional route, which most of you will do. The traditional route means that you're taking 2 courses per semester. For working professional students, 2 courses per semester is considered full-time. So that's the average. That's the average that students take to go through the program. So if you see here, Mike is taking, beginning the second year fall semester, Mike also decided that he wants to have a marketing concentration. Now with concentrations, you don't have to declare it. You don't have to declare a concentration. Most students that choose to declare concentration do so because they want to switch careers. And so if you're one that's looking to switch careers, then we have a concentration area that you can choose from. And those are just recommended. So concentrations do not appear on your transcript. They won't appear on your diploma. It's good for you to put it on your resume to say that you have knowledge in this particular area. Okay, so Mike has decided, like I said, to concentrate in marketing, and beginning the second year fall semester, these are the marketing courses that he's taking. He's taken 2 courses per semester at a time, and then graduated the third year spring semester. The other thing about concentration is that once you choose your concentrations, you only need to have taken 3 courses in that area in order to say that you have a concentration. All areas except finance, where you need to have taken 4 courses. So some students don't officially declare a concentration, but just by default, because they've taken so many classes in that particular area, they can put it on their resume that they had a focus in that area. Okay, so we move on to the accelerated schedule.
I'm sorry. Before I'm going to hold some of the questions that are related to the traditional schedule that you guys have submitted until Mauricio's here, because I want him to talk about that since that's his process. But we'll go through accelerated and some detailed questions and such there, as well as the interrupted schedule. So please continue to submit. We'll just make sure we focus on them when it's the best time. So
Okay,
go ahead, Olivia.
All right. So the accelerated schedule, just as it says, is students that choose to accelerate. Now, students choose to accelerate for a number of reasons. Kathleen touched on some are personal reasons, others is job related. It just depends on the student. So here, Shri is accelerating. I just made up these names. Perfect. So Shri is accelerating, and again, he's decided to have a focus, a concentration in the finance area. So again, beginning his second year, fall semester, which is the first opportunity that students can begin taking their electives, Shri, who is accelerating, has decided to take 3 electives per semester. And, you know, we understand that you are working professional students, so when you decide to accelerate, there are certain things that you're going to have to give up and bear in mind. I mean, we know that you're working, we know that you have family and you have a personal life for the most part. And so there are certain things, there's certain sacrifices that you as a student are going to have to make. And taking 3 courses can be quite a load on a working professional students. But Shri has decided to do so, and he has that option. So he's taken 3 courses in fall semester, second year. He's decided to take 3 elective courses in the spring semester, second year, including his international module. Okay. The first one is an ACE, which, as Kathleen said, is traditionally 3 weeks, and it's between the fall and spring semester, starting in December and then concludes in January. And then the next one is Washington campus, which again we touched on earlier. That's a week in DC. So we term those as short courses because they don't span the full semester. So Shri has taken 2 short courses, his international module, and he's taken a regular spring semester course. Now he can choose to take more than 1 during the regular semester, but for illustration purposes here, we just put 1 in there. So you can play this up any way you want based on your availability and how you want to speed up your courses. And then again, he's taking the summer semester. You're doing your core, which is your last core courses, your second summer semester. And then in this case, Shri is taking 2 courses in his last fall semester, and he can choose to graduate in the fall, or he can choose to come back in the spring and graduate with his cohort. that's the option you have under the accelerated process.
Wonderful. We had two questions I think that relate really well to what you described. And the first is that it is a hard schedule to accelerate. As you see here, there's a lot more courses, a lot more work. Some of these things take time out of the office, like a Washington campus or international study modules. So to be mindful, how many people who declare or decide that they're going to accelerate actually complete the program in that 24-month process? What percentage would you say?
It's about 10% that commit to accelerating in the program actually go through and accelerate in the program.
Okay.
Again, once you declare that you want to accelerate, we understand things happen. And so most people have the intention, but for whatever reasons, they don't go through with it. But again, those that make that sacrifice and make that commitment actually go through with it and accelerate.
And just to clarify too, when we say accelerate, that can mean 24 months, which is the very minimum length of time. But for most students, it ends up meaning 27 months, which is 7 semesters versus 8, which is still, you know, a good chunk of time that you're shortening the program, but it's a little less hectic and crazy than a 24-month acceleration.
It's really more realistic to do it in 27 months as opposed to 24 months.
And then the second question I thought was a great one, which is, this interruption, or I shouldn't say this interruption, this process and choice will mean that, to your point, there are some things you can and can't do. So how would this kind of schedule affect a person's interaction with the CMC or their ability for, you know, other extracurricular elements of the program if they have this class schedule?
The interrupted class schedule?
No, the accelerated schedule. So like if you're doing that, is there anything that they like, because they're not going to be available necessarily for some of those sessions, do you find that accelerated students still take advantage of all of those things?
Oh, absolutely. They just have to plan ahead.
Okay.
And so when you choose to accelerate, there are certain things you have to bear in mind. There's CMC for working professional timeline, company timeline for coming on campus and recruiting. So we suggest that you meet not only with us, your advisor, but you also meet with your career coach to better understand what those timelines are so you can plan accordingly. But once students plan and make that commitment and they understand what is involved, then it can be quite a smooth transition
Just to reemphasize that, it's certainly important to utilize your career advisors as well as your academic advisors, because they may let you know that it's to your benefit to remain a student while you're interviewing as opposed to graduating and then interviewing. It can depend you know, on how you're viewed by employers, things like that. It's just another thing to think about. So finishing your coursework but before graduation, going through a job search process may be to your benefit as opposed to graduating and then going through. So again, talk to your career advisors. They're available for one-on-one sessions really frequently, and they're very much available, as well as the academic advisors. You have a lot of people here to help you, and they have a lot of experience and a lot of background. So take advantage of that.
So the last schedule we're going to look at before we talked with Marissa was the interrupted schedule, and this actually adds some more time to it. So let's talk about what this might look like, alumni.
Sure. So the interrupted schedule, here Lisa has decided, well, typically when students interrupt their schedule, it's never a choice really. It's that life happens and for whatever reasons you sit out a semester, and that's fine, because especially when you start taking your elective courses, the flexibility is kind of built into it. So Lisa, again, another name I made up. Lisa interrupted her schedule during her third year fall semester. So she took the courses the first 2 years as per normal, loading up. She planned ahead and she loaded up on some of the courses during the second year spring semester. And she sat out the third semester, and then she loaded up again third year spring semester. And in this case, Lisa is going to graduate or finish her courses at the end of the third year summer semester. So she's only back by a semester. So she can choose to graduate in the summer. Let me just say this. Students can choose to graduate 3 times out of the year. Fall semester, summer semester, and spring semester. However, there's only one commencement ceremony which happens during the spring semester or after spring semester. So if Lisa finishes in the summer, as her schedule suggests, then she can choose to graduate at the end of summer, or she can choose to wait depends on what she has going on with CMC for working professionals and her job timeline. She can choose to, again, graduate then or come back and graduate and go through commencement during the spring semester.
So if you claim, so this one of the questions is, if I say I want to graduate in the summer and there isn't a commencement process, I'm just conferred a degree.
Yeah.
Can I then also come back and walk and physically participate in the spring, in the upcoming spring graduation, or no?
Yes, you can. However, not many people do. Because
Right.
once you receive that diploma,
You sort of moved on.
Yeah, you've moved on.
That makes sense.
But you should still go to the parties.
Right, definitely go.
Exactly.
Don't miss any of our parties. That's
That's
not a good idea.
Exactly.
So, and speaking of parties and sort of enjoying the process and all, I want to make sure that we have some time for Mauricio Goizueta to come and join us so he can talk a little bit about his process, because as Alumni outlined here, there are 3 different types of scheduling that can be done: the traditional, the accelerated, and the interrupted process. But in most cases, it's going to be based on your personal experience. And so hearing from a student who can talk a little bit about, the way that they made those choices, I think would be helpful kind of as you're looking at it. So he's going to slide on camera kind of like a ghost. You just, there he goes.
appears.
Ah, look at that. And so Mauricio will talk a little bit about us. Welcome, Mauricio.
Welcome.
How are you? We've got your info up on the screen, but please introduce yourself to all of our doting fans and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, of course. I'm Mauricio Goizueta. I'm originally from Colombia, South America. Been in the U.S. for about 14 years. Georgia Tech undergrad. Started at Emory 3 years ago. Flex MBA program, the evening program. I've enjoyed every moment. So I don't know if you've got any questions
We've
that you
got
want us
lots
to
of
dig
questions.
in.
We've got lots
Kind
of questions.
Me in a nutshell.
That's you in a nutshell. So as I understand, you went through you followed a traditional path,
That's
if you
right.
will. And at what point in time did you, or at any point in time, did you consider either accelerating or interrupting your schedule, and for what reasons?
Yes, of course. So I actually did accelerate my schedule in the beginning, but then I also slowed it down towards the second half.
Okay.
And the reason that I played with the timing was in the beginning at work, I was in a position or in a situation that I could make it work and I could accelerate it. But then as the program progressed, my responsibilities changed and evolved at work. I was able to get more responsibilities, which demanded a lot more time of me. So I then had to adjust and kind of scale down a little bit on the MBA. But that's where the flexibility comes in.
Yeah. And as you kind of went through that process, it sounds like you accelerated some things and slowed down some things. What were some of the accelerated things you did? Were they ACE? Was it directed studies? What types of process did you take advantage of?
So what I did to accelerate the program was once I moved out of the core, and in that second year, what I did is during that summer and fall, I took more classes.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I didn't really go into the ACEs, but I just took on more on a heavier burden in those times. And then when I slowed down, instead of reverting back to the 2-class schedule, I reverted to a 1-class schedule.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So think about, if you can think back that far, because you're graduating soon, so think about when you first had to start choosing your electives. What were some of the factors, we listed some, but what were some of the factors you chose on how you picked your electives? And how did you work with the program office to figure those out?
Yeah, of course. So my starting ground was obviously my areas of focus and specialization, right? So that kind of narrowed down the list a little bit. There's a lot of tools that we can use internally to learn more about the classes, either through networking and asking people that have taken those classes. Obviously, the program office helps you lay out a plan long term. So with their help and getting feedback on what classes are interesting, what classes are more valuable depending on your career and your plan, you're able to fine tune and kind of get the right classes on your schedule.
So you are currently at Oracle, correct?
That's correct.
And were you at Oracle when you first got here?
I was,
And
yes.
how has your role sort of morphed as you've been in the program, and have you taken advantage of sort of classes or study or things to kind of address some of the stuff you're doing?
Yeah, I have a lot. So I've been
I'm
really
tossing softballs. I
No,
know.
that's perfect. So actually, I'm in a kind of a different situation. My objective for the MBA was career progression. So what I did is when I started at Oracle, my role was that of an individual contributor. Right? So I had my job and kind of my duties. As I started working through the program, a lot of the things that I learned, I took and experimented with them at work right away. And after that, I've been fortunate to get the opportunities and have the skills and kind of the tools from the MBA program to a point that I've had three promotions and I now manage 3 teams at Oracle.
That's
So
awesome.
it's been.
I now
it's
work
been-
for Marisa, by the way.
It's
Just
been-
in the
I know
course
we
of
all
this
do.
conversation.
It's been a very good. It's been a very good experience, and a lot of it is thanks to the program.
That's great. Well, we have up on the screen some things related to your schedule that I definitely want you to talk to. We'll start with the directed study, because I think a lot of people have interest in this, and it's really great to be able to see how a program can take the skills you learn and like directly apply it to something you're interested in. So talk about this social enterprise project with Kimberly Clark that you did in Bolivia with Peter Roberts.
That's right. Yes. So it's a very interesting opportunity. So Peter manages the social enterprise program at Goizueta, and I remember it was last spring. You know, we started talking. I was interested in one of his other classes, the Nicaragua trip. So I started talking to him about that, and he mentioned that one of our alumni was running Kimberly Clark in Bolivia. They're interested in developing a recycling program that was sustainable in the city of Santa Cruz. So I started getting engaged on that program, and then we defined with Peter the structure, and it's a group of about 6, 7 of us that are participating. So the way this has worked out is there's a lot of research and upfront work. We managed to go to Santa Cruz 2 times this semester. The first time was obviously just part of the initial discovery process, and then this last time was a week and a half ago. And it was just to present kind of our model, our solution to the program, and obviously kind of validate and fine-tune some of the results.
And I think that not every program will have you travel to Bolivia, not every directed study, but I think it's a great example of kind of understanding how there is such great research and information happening in the building and so many classes to take advantage of. And to Kathleen's point, when she mentioned the 2 types of directed studies, the company-sponsored and the faculty-sponsored, working with faculty to find important and validating and engaging work is fairly easy. 1, because the faculty are so accessible, but 2, because there's so much that they study and it's across a wide range of backgrounds. So there are easily ways for you to find things to sort of get involved in and tweak them so that they can be a directed study and it can be something as close to what you're interested in understanding about. So that's awesome. You also did an international study in China. And tell us when in the process did you do that? So what year did you do that? What semester? Yes. And what made you choose China?
So I did it as soon as I started my 2nd year.
Okay.
After that summer, I went to China. Out of the options that are available to us, China was the most appealing for multiple reasons. In the beginning, right? So my logical options was Brazil or Argentina. As I progressed at work, I found myself working at Oracle with Brazil and Argentina. So I said, yeah, that would be awesome, but how about I focus on something that I would never have the experience of learning at that level and in that depth. So that's how I ended up choosing China. It was a great experience. We were there for a week. Managed to get another week off work. After that program,
that's awesome.
It was
go
great.
that far, right?
Because you obviously spend that week learning about the country, the business environment, all those things. But then spending that 2nd week and reflecting on kind of what you learn and seeing things at work, kind of magnified the experience for me.
Yeah, and it's smart. I mean, I think a lot of people have to look at, again, factors to consider how you learn and what you want to do. So perhaps not having an opportunity to go to China in your current work role means that you should take advantage of it in your career. But if you're someone who wants to immerse themselves in it and you're going to work with those areas and maybe you want to study and go and work, in those same environments. So it's great to be able to have the options. Roughly how many different international study options, Alumni and Kathleen, are there like in a year for them to go to?
I believe it's
About
6.
6.
Yeah.
So there's the annual trip. So Nicaragua, China, Argentina, Brazil, Netherlands. Our annual trips we go every year. But then the colloquium is an annual trip as well, but the destination changes each year. So this year we're going to, I've already forgotten.
Colombia.
Sorry. Last year we
and
went
I'll
to
be
South
going with them.
Last year we went to South Africa, and we've been to the Middle East, we've been to South America, we've been really all over the world.
Yeah.
So.
And so again, there's no shortage of opportunities for you to find something that's not only interesting and engaging, but relevant, either in a different manner from your current work or directly related to your current work. So that's awesome. You also list some of your favorite courses, and I was interested here because you're marketing and strategy in your role, and you definitely list marketing and Professor Barwatch, who is awesome. She's great. But you also mentioned finance. So talk a little bit about how you chose the courses that you took and sort of, took some things that don't look like they directly relate to kind of what you do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's also where your objectives come in. So part of my objective was not only career progression, but also rounding myself. And as I progressed in my career, I found myself dealing with more and more finance-related topics. So aside from running kind of the sales departments, we're also now running the P&Ls. So we know we have to be fully aware about how senior management makes their decision. And a lot of the time you're interacting with finance directors, finance VPs. So being able to have those conversations one-to-one makes a big difference in how you go about your day-to-day.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. I think people come in sometimes and they're like, I want to take every marketing class you offer because I'm a marketing person. And then you realize you're in this classroom with these diverse backgrounds and thoughts and perspectives. And you're like, wow, maybe I should try that. Or you hear about this phenomenal professor in this area that you might have never thought you were interested in. I'm not going to talk bad about accounting, but we have some pretty amazing accounting professors. And not everybody always thinks to themselves, like, I should go take an accounting class. But you'll get inspired by a lot of what you'll see in the classroom and the opportunities and options that exist.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.